I know that, or at least it's in my experience, adoption of tagging tends to lag. Like a lot of companies don't even know about tagging or don't spend time when it comes to tagging their resources. Why do you think that's the problem? And not or why do you think that's a thing? And I'm not just saying just within the context of Databricks, but just generally in cloud. I still hear CFOs saying, "Hey, what are we spending money on? All I have is this bill for $10,000. I don't know what resource. Well, like, where's this money going to?"
Yeah, so I think there's a natural cycle that as someone starts working on a technology vendor, the first thing they're focused on doing is understanding it and using it and having it provide some value by completing a job that they have, whether it's a literal Databricks job or just like a job to be done, some workload they need completed. And then over time, as that's running, the expenses build up, and you start to have someone that cares about that money start to ask questions about, hey, where is it going in the granularity? And then you sort of have this reactive, like, oh, I guess we need to figure it out. We should put tags on place. And that process can take a while. It might be like early days of development using the vendor. By the time the money scales up enough that it catches a finance person's attention and they ask questions, it's already been, you've been using that vendor for 6 or 12 months. And then someone says, oh, I guess we should put tagging in place. And then it takes another few months to decide on a tag strategy. So I really recommend that everyone right off the beginning get some tags in place. And we are working to train all the Databricks account teams that help customers onboard that this is a best practice. Do it on day one. You won't regret it. When things grow and when people start to ask questions, you'll have those things in place. We're also looking as a software vendor how we can help automate this even more. One of the things that Databricks has been investing heavily into is this idea of data intelligence platform. And that's basically saying, hey, we are not just a point vendor. We actually understand your whole data environment. We built this lakehouse category. We know what's happening. We know the data that you have managed with Unity Catalog. We know your jobs, your BI workloads. We can use that to make intelligent recommendations in various ways. And one of those ways I'm really excited about is automating some of this tagging and cost attribution. You might have a user that does data analysis for 2 or 3 different projects, and it might be important to the company to attribute the costs of that analysis to that specific project. I talk to customers periodically where this is the case. They want that real specific attribution. You could ask that user to tell you which project they're working on at all times, kind of like a lawyer would do billable hours, but that's a lot of work. One of the things I'm interested in is, hey, how can we use data intelligence to automate this? And so when they query certain tables, that probably tells us they're working on that certain project. We can use that to do some, recommendations of, hey, we think you're working on this project. Is that right? And so that's an area that Databricks has been talking a lot about internally, and I hope to have announcements about in the future.
Yeah, and I think I think even a few months ago or a month or two ago, I even wrote something about that being a need, right? Abstract that need away so that they're have a set of governance tags that say, hey, these are our standard tags, but then let's leverage AI to actually understand the tables that are to understand what is driving the cost and how things should be allocated within that governance of like, hey, AI don't just make up random stuff, but here's the list of rules that we have in place. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's been something you've been talking about, and it's been inspiring us to think about what we could do. So
yeah,
I hope to have some more to share about that soon.
no, that's fun. So looking back, early 2024, okay, to where we are now in 2025, and perhaps well, where we are now in 2024, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. I can't speak anymore. I need more coffee. What do you think is in store for the future? Like, how has the philosophy and the importance of cost allocation, cost tracking, cost reporting changed internally at Databricks? Anything that you can share on that?
Yeah, I'd say there's kind of two trends that, it's worth thinking about. One is that we've been on a journey to make cost management easier for our customers. And those kind of journeys take time, and we've known that. So some of the things that have come out were planned and discussed for a while. When I joined Databricks, I talked about, hey, the first thing we need to do is get our customers access to data about what's happening. And they can use that in multiple ways. They can query it themselves, they can plug it into a third party data tool to visualize, or they can plug it into a third party cost management tool. From there, we should build tooling to make it really easy so someone doesn't have to do those things if they don't want to. And from there, that tooling should get more intelligent. And we're really on phase two of that journey in 2024. In 2023, we released system tables and said, here's a lot of observability data. Now you can slice and dice and understand things. We've continued to add more tables this year. System tables have gone to GA. And we've also released that first set of tools, the AIBI cost dashboard, Cost Genie, where you can ask questions in natural language, budget alerts, budget policies is something as well, where you can tag serverless things. And so that's kind of that first set of tools. And we're really excited. The adoption has been strong on those. We've gotten a lot of feedback and iterated. And now we're looking at the next wave, which is what are these more intelligent products, forecasting, recommendations, anomaly detections, those sorts of things. And I think that's the next step in the journey. Now, a lot of that wasn't a surprise. We kind of knew that's what the journey would look like. But along the way, there's a lot of micro adjustments that have happened as we've gotten feedback from customers. From the inside, I see how much time we spend talking to and listening to our customers, whether that's live meetings, whether that's product advisory boards, whether that's us paying attention to conversations on LinkedIn and Reddit and places and saying, hey, we hear the market reacting to this, and we hear our users saying this feature isn't helpful, they would like this. How can we adjust our plans? How can we iterate on the idea? And we try to be very responsive. So some of the things we've been working on are direct responses to those conversations, and sometimes that happens in a matter of weeks, that we'll say, hey, actually this thesis that we think is now incorrect. We've heard this feedback. Customers don't like this. Let's adjust our thesis. Let's adjust this feature in response to that. And there's been a lot of that happening as well this year on various features.
Greg, I know in the past I've asked you, why should I, as a customer or an organization, trust Databricks to really be mindful of my spending, and what are you doing to really show customers that you do have their best interest in mind while also helping Databricks grow?
Yeah. When it comes to cost, a lot of people see the amount they're spending on Databricks go up, and they kind of start to ask questions like that, like, hey, what's happening here? And I'd say, speaking for me personally, I want to see the amount that customers are spending on Databricks go up in the future, but I want them to be happy about that because they're getting so much value from the product. And so, you have positive direction on both spend and value. I think that's really core to what Databricks has done since the beginning. And sometimes people forget bits of the story, that like the invention of Spark and the first version of Databricks really was designed to make it more cost effective to run these large data workloads. Instead of having to take a bunch of data and transfer it across a network and pay for networking fees and store it on a vendor and pay storage fees, you could use this lakehouse architecture to basically say, I'm keeping my data in place in the lake. I don't have to transfer it. I'm already paying for storage there, and so there's no additional storage cost. And now I can do the operations on top of it. We've continued to invest in technology like that. You look at Photon and us finding ways to make it more efficient and reduce the compute effort needed to do those workloads is a thing. You look at what we've done on DB SQL. Folks that have run the same query, the same workload year after year on DB SQL have seen those costs go down because of improvements we've made to the engine. And so all of those things are things that I think sometimes people forget that we're doing. And that's really our goal, is to make sure we're doing a lot of hard technologically challenging work to reduce the cost of these data workloads. So as the data volume grows and as the number of workloads grows, yes, the cost might be going up, but it's not going up as fast as the value is going up. We really want customers to be getting a lot of value from that data because long term, it's a win-win situation in that case. Customers win when they're able to get the value from their data. They're able to ship a data product or get an insight that helps them be more effective as a business. And then they can say, great, we can keep doing more of this. And so it's really aligning and making sure we're focusing on value and how we help customers to spend on Databricks where things are valuable, and then we help to make those more cost effective over time. Kind of the unit economics of it, that it's cheaper to run a workload tomorrow than it is today, all things equal.
And what are within that regard and within the scope of what your team does? I know we've already talked about budget policies as one of those tools. And you also mentioned the cost dashboards. Can you just more hone in on that in terms of what they're capable of right now, and perhaps what's the vision of how you're empowering customers to actually leverage those dashboards?
Yeah, so in trying to help customers spend their money effectively and really on things that are valuable to them, they obviously need to see where they're spending their money. And so we always recommend customers go ahead and utilize the tools we provide for them. We have a cost dashboard that you can, get to in 2 clicks, and you can look at and see where you're spending money. From there, once you've kind of sliced and diced, obviously you should apply some tags so that you can get granular enough. You can go about setting up budget alerts so that you're notified if anything unexpected happens. That way you don't have to wake up every morning and check the dashboard. You'll get an email, or you can set up a message, somewhere else so that you'll be notified if there's something you need to pay attention to. And that really would avoid a lot of the problems. When I have customers come to me and there's an issue, it usually would have been prevented if they would have taken those steps early on. They would have tagged things, they would have set up a cost dashboard, set up some budget alerts. They could have avoided some of those cases. And so I encourage everyone to invest that time and energy to get started in your cost management journey early in your time on Databricks so that you don't end up in one of those conversations where you're saying, hey, this thing happened, and we're having to have that rough conversation after the fact.